She said, "Real men don't argue. Just pay and shut up," I replied. "Thanks for the advice." Then I paid for my own dinner only and walked out. Her laughter died when the bill landed on the table, and her friends slowly realized she'd been abandoned. I, 32, male, am a data analyst. My job is to find the pattern, see the trend, and draw the logical conclusion. For 2 years, I've been ignoring the glaring data set of my own relationship with my girlfriend, Isabella. The pattern was her ever-increasing expectation of a lifestyle funded entirely by me. The trend was my slow transformation from a partner into a provider, and the logical conclusion was that I was not a boyfriend. I was an ATM. I ignored it because she was beautiful, charming, and our life on the surface, the one she curated so perfectly for social media, looked perfect. But the cost of maintaining that perfect-looking life was getting higher with every passing month. The final, undeniable data point that forced a conclusion arrived last night at her 28th birthday dinner. The venue was Aurelia, a restaurant so exclusive that the air itself feels expensive. She had invited her 2 best friends, Sasha and Talia, who served as her perpetual hype women, echoing her desires and validating her every whim. The evening was a masterclass in performative extravagance from the moment we sat down. "Oh, we have to start with the Aurelia Grand Platter," Isabella announced, waving away the menu as if it were a pesky fly. "And a bottle of the Veuve, the good one." The platter was a mountain of oysters, lobster, and shrimp that cost more than my weekly food budget. The champagne was nearly $300. I just nodded, the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. For the past year, this had become our dynamic. Her desires were non-negotiable declarations, and my role was to facilitate them without question. The ordering continued in that vein. 3 Wagyu steaks with truffle butter add-ons, a parade of elaborate cocktails with names like Gilded Dream, and another expensive bottle of wine. They took dozens of selfies, their laughter loud and theatrical, largely ignoring me, except to occasionally check that the wallet was still present and accounted for. The conversation eventually turned to a recent disagreement we'd had. She wanted a lavish, spontaneous weekend getaway to a 5-star spa resort. I, thinking practically about our shared goal of saving for a house, had suggested a slightly more reasonable but still beautiful alternative, a boutique hotel by the coast. Isabella recounted this story to her friends with a dramatic, dismissive eye roll. "Can you believe it? He actually wanted to argue about the budget, like with a spreadsheet." Sasha gasped theatrically, her hand flying to her chest. "No, the whole point of having a man is that he handles things. You shouldn't have to worry about the budget. That's his job." "That's what I told him," Isabella said, her voice rising with validation. She then turned to me, a condescending smirk playing on her lips, and delivered the line that would detonate our entire relationship. "You have to learn, Liam. Real men don't argue about money. They just pay and shut up." Sasha and Talia howled with laughter, raising their glasses to her. Isabella beamed, looking at me, expecting a sheepish nod of acceptance, a quiet surrender, but she didn't see one. In that moment, the data points of the last 2 years clicked into place. The spreadsheets in my mind were finally adding up. The knot in my stomach wasn't anxiety anymore. It was a cold, hard certainty. I looked at her smug, beautiful face and felt absolutely nothing. The love, the affection, it had all been eroded away, replaced by the grim reality of a transaction. The waiter arrived a few minutes later with the bill, placing it discreetly on the table. Isabella nodded at it, then at me. The silent command was clear. "Do your job, pay and shut up." I opened the leather folder. The total, with tax and an automatically included 20% gratuity for a large party, was just over $1,200. I saw them watching me, their conversation pausing in anticipation of the familiar ritual of me pulling out my wallet. I looked up at Isabella, and for the first time in a long time, I let a small, calm, genuine smile touch my lips. "Thanks for the advice," I said. Her smirk widened. She thought I had finally learned my place. I flagged down the waiter. "Excuse me," I said, my voice low and steady, so only he could hear. "I'd like to pay for my portion now separately." The waiter, a consummate professional, didn't miss a beat, but Isabella's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of confusion. "Liam, what are you doing?" she hissed under her breath. I ignored her, focusing on the waiter. I had the ribeye steak, which was $85, and one beer, which was $12. That's a subtotal of $97. I pulled out my phone's calculator. With our 9% sales tax, my total comes to $105.73. I'd like to add a $25 tip for your excellent service, so please run my card for a final total of $130.73. I was speaking calmly, as if reconciling an expense report at work. The waiter just nodded. "Of course, sir." Isabella's face was now a storm of confusion and mounting fury. "Liam, what the hell do you think you're doing? Stop this right now," she whispered fiercely. Her friends stared, their mouths agape. The party was officially over. I handed my card to the waiter. Then I stood up, pushed in my chair, and put my phone in my pocket. I didn't look at any of them. The waiter returned a moment later with my receipt. I signed it, turned and walked away. As I headed for the door, I could hear Isabella's furious whisper, "Where is he going? Get him back here." I stepped out into the cool night air, feeling a profound sense of lightness, as if a massive weight had been lifted from my shoulders. My phone began to buzz before I even reached the corner. A text from Isabella. "Where are you going? Get back here, right now, and pay this bill." Another, "Liam, I am not joking. This isn't funny." I hailed a cab. As I got in, I pictured the scene I had just left. I imagined the waiter returning to their table with the bill folder, now containing the remaining unpaid balance of $1,069.27. I imagined Isabella's triumphant laughter dying in her throat as she saw the new total. I imagined the dawning horror on Sasha and Talia's faces as they realized their free ride was not only over but had just crashed and burned, leaving them with the bill. She had said, "Real men pay and shut up." She was half right. I didn't argue, and I paid for my dinner and for my freedom. The cab ride home was blissfully quiet, a stark contrast to my phone, which was in the middle of a full-blown notification seizure. When I walked into my apartment, my name solely on the lease, a detail that was about to become critical, I finally surveyed the digital carnage. It was a predictable tirade of entitlement and rage. "You owe me $1,069.27. I'm sending you my Venmo. Pay it now." I muted the threads and waited. An hour later, the door flew open, slamming against the stopper. Isabella stood in the entryway, radiating a fury so intense, it seemed to suck the air out of the room. "What was that?" she seized. I remained on the couch. "That was me taking your advice," I said calmly. "You abandoned me." "No, you said real men don't argue. They pay and shut up." "I didn't argue. I paid for my meal." "Then I shut up and I followed your instructions perfectly." The cold logic of it seemed to break her brain. "That's not what I meant, and you know it. You were supposed to pay for everyone. That's your job. That's the deal." "My job? The deal?" I asked. I didn't realize our relationship was a business transaction. "Thanks for clarifying. In that case, consider my contract terminated. You're going to throw away 2 years over one stupid dinner." "It was never about the dinner," I said. "It was about the line. Pay and shut up." That one sentence told me exactly what you think of me. You don't see a partner, you see a wallet, and I'm resigning from that position. Her anger suddenly gave way to panicked entitlement. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice shaking. "You're just emotional. Now, are you going to send me the money or not?" "No," I said. "That bill is between you, your friends, and Talia's dad's emergency credit card." "Fine," she shrieked. Be a cheap, pathetic child. I'm going to bed. She started for the bedroom. No, I said, my voice stopping her cold. You're not. You can pack a bag with what you need for a few days. Then you need to leave. She spun around, her face a mask of disbelief. Leave. I live here. No, I corrected her. I live here. My name is on the lease. Our relationship is over, so your stay here is over. You can come back on the weekend to get the rest of your things. The loss of the apartment, the home base for her entire lifestyle, was a catastrophe she hadn't anticipated. You can't do that, she cried, genuine panic in her eyes. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Isabella. You could stay with Sasha or Talia. I'm sure they'd love to host the person who just cost their family over $1,000. The war that followed was quiet, but total. When she came back for her things, I stood by with receipts, calmly denying her every attempt to take items I had paid for. The final battle was over a $3,000 camera kit I had bought her. It was a gift, she screamed. It was an investment in a shared future that no longer exists, I replied. The camera stays with the investor, but in the chaos, one of her friends pocketed my external hard drive, which contained years of my personal photography. She then tried to hold it hostage, demanding a trade for the camera. The audacity was breathtaking. I didn't give in to the blackmail. I drafted a formal email outlining the situation. I was in possession of the camera, valued at $2,850, for which I had proof of ownership. She was in possession of my stolen hard drive. Her text message proposing a trade was an admission of theft and an attempt at extortion. She had 48 hours to return my property, or I would file a police report for felony theft. She returned the drive. The fallout for her was quiet but complete. The friendship with Talia was shattered over the dinner bill. Without her hype crew and without my funding, Isabella's influencer dreams evaporated. I heard she had to move out of the city, unable to afford her lifestyle. My revenge was never about destroying her. It was about refusing to be her collateral damage. I didn't argue. I just paid my share and walked away from the table. She wanted to play a game of transactions. I just made sure she was the one left holding the bill.